This is the You Winning Life podcast, your number one source for mastering a positive existence. Each episode will be interviewing exceptional people, giving you empowering insights, and guiding you to extraordinary outcomes. Learn from specialists in the worlds of integrative and natural wellness, spirituality, psychology, and entrepreneurship, so you too can be winning life. Now, here's your host, licensed marriage and family therapist, certified neuro-emotional technique practitioner, and certified entrepreneur coach, Jason Wasser.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another You Winning Life podcast. As always, we would love to hear from you. If you are one of our awesome listeners out there, we would love to connect with you. So please hit us up on Instagram, Jason Wasser LMFT, or on You Winning Life on either one of those accounts on Instagram. And we'd love to know who you are, where you are, and as well as what topics in the future you would love for us to talk more about, what type of people you'd like to see, and what areas of life that we can connect with and bring to you, the listener, so we can start creating more of an awesome conversation and taking it to the next level as we're getting close to episode 200, which is going to happen within the next year. And also let me know if you'd be interested in perhaps doing a retreat. I'm thinking about doing that for people in the community to get all like-minded people together for a nice weekend somewhere, hopefully in nature, and to help tackle some things that would make sense to you. So if any of these things interest you, one, just to say hello, and two, if you'd like to see an actual in-person event, let me know. Really would like to connect with you, especially since we have listeners all over the world, which is super amazing. So without further ado, today's guest is Mike Dallas-Petersen. He is an entrepreneur, father, husband, and he's based in the British Columbia area. He's a highly sought after automation and systems specialist, helping online entrepreneurs scale their offers and their business with world-class systems, automation, and delegation. He now teaches working professionals on how to do the same. So today we're going to talk about what an integrator business is, what it takes mindset-wise to make a business click, how to actually get results. So, right, even though you may or may not have a business while listening to this, but a lot of the practical application of how to move your life forward, how to take action steps is going to be part of this conversation. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts and comments on this. As always, if you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast, please do so on your platform of choice. And also know that we do have YouTube videos of every single episode that we do. And we'd love for you to subscribe and follow us and leave some comments over there. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. And there we go. All right. So we're going to get this started because, Michael and I just had a really awesome pre-game conversation. And as I promised you, we're going to get into the conversation about how to make things work both in your personal life as well as your professional life. And first of all, again, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's going to be fun.
So one of the things we were just talking about, which I didn't, think we were going to get into, but I'm glad we did, is one, I just want you to introduce who you are, what you do, this concept of what an integrator is. But I really would like to start off the conversation with where you're coming from and why this is so passionate and important to you to be doing what you're doing now.
Sounds good. Yeah. So Michael Dallas-Petersen, live in southern British Columbia, Canada. Moved from the Great White North, if you will, closer to the Yukon than that, about 3 or 4 years ago. Father, 2 beautiful children, wife, and a couple pups, dogs, and it's a little bit about who I am. Integrator. It's I would say to be like a remote integrator. It's a fairly new coined term. I don't think that in terms of the online world and things like that, it's like a new position where we don't really classify ourselves as like marketers or things like that because we do pretty much everything. And so an integrator, for in a nutshell, we just hook up and glue the internet together with different softwares. We bridge the gap and we make things talk. And so on one side, you'll have a CRM. On the other side, you want an autoresponder, or on one side, you have a booking calendar. And then the other side, you want it to go into a CRM and then a autoresponder. And so we that's a very small example. So we'll do that. We'll hook up your ads. We'll build your websites. We'll do your funnels. We'll get you, virtual assistants from the Philippines to help, with support, maybe whatever you might need there. We're basically that one-stop shop that'll help your business grow without having to spend enormous amounts of money on retainers on these marketing agencies and all these other things that just offer one solution, which is paid ads. And I started there and sold a lot of people on that and made a lot of people money. But after a while, I was like, hey, I gotta kind of help them out with the real problem, which is like their marketing and their sales systems are not together. These agencies can come in and build stuff, but then after they can't afford the retainer, they don't want to do it. All the systems and all that leave with them, right? And so I like to help out the business owners right from the ground up, and we basically try to accomplish everything instead of just little small things, right? So
love that. So talk to me about where you started. I know before you were doing this, you were working in corporate at some version, right? And I don't want to call it corporate America because you're not in America, but that mindset. But I want to take it even further back, right? We were talking a little bit about family and a little bit of where both of our stories started. And what I didn't tell you about my family background is when my grandfather came to America, a little bit later, he started a furniture store in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And so that store still exists, but it's now here in South Florida. My brother and sister run it and have taken over and expanded and grown it. So we have this third generation furniture business, but we also have third generation family dynamics and family themes that, are still being played out and sometimes help the business, sometimes hinder the business, help the family, hinder the family. So I know you were sharing a little bit about where you're coming from, some of those dynamics, some of the family history, family culture that you had to kind of take a look at and help you to grow into the person you are now. So let's get a little bit into that.
Yeah, well, I think we'll start like the preteen side of things, because that's where like my life, I think it really started to like shape up. I mean, for the worst at the beginning, and then obviously now it's tremendously better. But back in when was it, 2000? Oh goodness, 2011. Actually, no, 2001. My goodness, I'm way off.
You're off a decade.
Like, holy crow, how old am I? So anyways, let's just go back to when I was like 12, 13 years old. And my family, for the most part, is just a large group of just alcoholics. And so, and not just like your traditional, like I drink a beer every day, kind of, whatever, like, no, like pretty much getting shit-faced daily, in a consistent stupor of discombobulation, if you will. And so my whole family, like my before I even met my grandfather, he died because of, abuse and alcohol abuse and all that kind of stuff. And then growing up as a, preteen, I was just, accustomed to like getting, like my dad wants me to go grab a beer. Can you open it? Cool. Hey, you might as well have a sip. I'm like, okay, sure. And I didn't know anything different, right? Like I was just like, I didn't know anything. Right. And so like, same thing, there was like, my dad would have, I think they call them Mickeys. I don't know if they call them Mickeys in America, but the smaller sized, alcohol, swiggers or whatever you want. So he would go into the fridge and, he would find it funny that I would take a swig and I would be like, coughing and all that kind of stuff. They would find it hilarious. Right. Yeah. And so I didn't think anything different. That was like how I grew up. That was normal. Right. And so after a while, I was like getting into the whole addiction thing because it's, it was obviously in my family. And my father would basically get me to clean the house for a 26-ounce, bottle of booze, or even a Mickey of booze, and I take that out, and I was like, the popular kid, because they would always have the booze and I would always have the alcohol and all that kind of stuff. So I was this just bad kid, and always getting in trouble and always drinking, always having house parties and, shooting out lights, throwing things in microwaves he shouldn't have, destroying things, and just being that kid, like that young teenager. So
Yeah.
I think that's, that's where I started off, like almost, high school, getting into high school kind of thing. That's, that's where I that's where I first started, I suppose. Yeah.
When did you notice that you had this sense of like, all right, there's something bigger, something better, something healthier out there for you?
Yeah. Yeah. That took a while. So I got all the way till about 2000. When did I graduate? I graduated a year late because I failed. I failed a grade. I think 2015. So 2015 is when 2014 into 2015, I got expelled from school. And I was selling, cocaine and stuff out of the school. And I had, tons of drugs and I had basically gotten caught, and I was not having it. So I was running away from the teachers inside the school, and the teacher ended up grabbing me and I punched them, and it was not a good situation. So I ended up getting expelled for that, and they found stuff in my locker. And anyway, so it was court ordered that I had to go to military school. And this was like, 2015, grade 9, failed it. And so I got sent away to Canada. I think one of Canada's only private boarding military themed school, and it's like a boot camp in a sense, but it's actually you go full on to high school, right? So I went there in 2015, and I went there for 4 years in a row. It was subsidized by the government because I was just this bad kid and stuff like that, and my parents just were like, you goodbye. My dad didn't really agree with it. My mom was like, no, you're gone. And so it was then that like I was like completely sober, always eating very good. I was learning and like enjoying learning. I had like tons of discipline, tons of structure. You couldn't even enter the classroom without having to come to attention and salute and ask for permission to enter. You use substitution, like you said, frick. They'd give you cod liver oil before you'd have to eat lunch, or you'd have to run 5 kilometers. And I don't know what that is in miles, like 3 miles or 2.5 miles, something like that. So it was this thing. There was ultimate respect. There's absolutely no way you couldn't respect your teachers. There's no way you couldn't do any of that. And like we lived in a barrack style, open cubicle barrack style places. So everything was in the open. Nothing was locked. Everyone could see anything you had. The only thing personally you're allowed is a few pictures. That was it. Everything else was given to you. You weren't allowed anything else. So it was then that I was like rising up through the ranks. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do something else. Like I became like they call it a house. Like, so you had every barracks had a few houses, and every barracks had multiple platoons. And then there was a barracks person in charge. So they called them house ICs, house in charge. And so I was a house IC, and then became a platoon IC, and then I became a barracks IC, and then I ended up becoming like one of the head cadets, which is like one of the top 4 positions or whatever. And so I graduated actually my second year, which is unheard of. I became the platoon IC, which is like, or sorry, not platoon, parade sergeant major, basically. So anyways, I became that, and then I became the next year I became brigade sergeant major the whole year, my year 3, and then year 4 became the head cadet, which is like head of the entire school. But throughout those entire 4 years, I mean, I did crazy stuff. I went to like Fort Bragg. I went to Oak Ridge Military Academy. I went to Baton Death March in White Sands Missile Range, New Mexico. We went, we played, military games with the U.S. Airborne. I jumped out of planes with them. I did all this kind of stuff, and it was unreal. It was unreal. So like out of high school, which is my high school, I didn't have anything after that. So I ended up having to go back straight into my father's house. And so everything that I just learned and everything that I was doing, everything that was like, amazing, and all this discipline that I had, lost it instantly, got out, and basically moved in with my father. And he was still drinking significantly. Right. So I think it was around, that was 2009 when I graduated. And by 2011, I was full-fledged alcoholic, functioning, still working. And I was working at a tire shop, and I was like one of the head OTR guys, which is like, I did a huge, like 12-foot tall mining tires, like huge. And so I was the only guy in the north that could do like these big, huge 777, 2749 tires. Like they're massive. I was the only one that was trained to do them. We're the only ones with like a high-end truck strong enough to do it. So I was working 15 to 19-hour days for this mine that was just starting up in our area. And so it was called Mount Milligan Mine. And so I was just there 15 hours a day, 6 days a week mostly. And it was just crazy. And I was just like, I would be bringing water bottles of wine with me in the truck. And I was like functioning like drunk doing these tires. Yeah. Like it's crazy. Now that I think back to it, I'm like how I didn't die or how I didn't drop stuff or how I like, I mean, I'm lifting up this like, not 100-ton truck. I forget what tonnage they were. 777s weren't like the biggest of the big. Right. They were definitely like pretty small, but compared to those big, huge ones. But I mean, I've got this jack, half the size of a car that I'm like putting underneath this giant machine. And then I'm swinging in this like jack stand, like off. Anyways, crazy stuff and lifting it up just about a half an inch off the ground to take this tire off the ground. You know what I mean? Like, right. Just crazy.
Any little miscalculation, and it's fatal.
Yeah. Well, the one mistake I did make is I brought, and I've actually never really told anyone this, but I made a mistake one time and it was on the 777. And before you jack them, you're supposed to dump the box just in case there's anything in it. And so that's one of the SOPs that you're supposed to do. And so I had done it like 30 or 40 times, no issues. And you're not supposed to park near the truck when you do that. You're supposed to park away, get in, make sure everything's good, do a walk around, go to lock it out, get it prepared to lock out, turn it on, dump the bucket, put the bucket back down, then lock out the bin. So I was doing that, but I parked the truck right beside it. And my helper that time was just standing there beside the truck. I went to dump it and there was like a swimming pool full of water in the back of it. And I dumped all that water like right there, soaked him, swept him underneath the truck, everything. Just, it was crazy. So anyways, that was, but you know, yeah, it was a bad time in my life. But
when did it start switching for you? Yeah.
Was that? This is so like after all of that kind of happened, and then I was so far gone that I ended up, getting hospitalized, and I had like pre-stage like liver failure. And I was like in the hospital, damn near comatose. They were surprised I was still alive. So it was then, and there was this only one doctor, and I don't know why, but they gave me this drug called Antabuse. I don't know the proper name of it, but it's called Antabuse. I think that's like the mainstream name of it or whatever. Basically it makes you significantly sick if you even touch a little bit of alcohol. And so he was the only one. He just prescribed that to me. I'd been to the doctors like 100 times before that, and no one ever, and he just prescribed that to me. I literally, still got him right here. Even this far out, I still keep a prescription just right beside me. It's disulfiram. Anyway, keep it right here all the time. If I ever even, like, not that I ever do, but it's always like
it's always in that mindset. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just keep it, and I don't take it anymore, but it was then that I was dying. My girlfriend, wife now at the time or whatever, she was my girlfriend, was about to take my dog. My house was about to get sold from under me from my mom. Like everything was like just like going downhill, and so I just took that pill and never drank again.
So that was it. It was an immediate
cold turkey. Just done.
What do you remember? Do you remember any of the thoughts in your mind at that moment? Like what you were saying to yourself? Worst case scenario? It was the voices that were talking to me, man. Because like when I came off and I said I quit cold turkey, if anyone's ever experienced like true like addiction and coming down, and most people don't know this, but like alcohol, you can still hear voices. You can still, it was unreal. Like I couldn't take a shower with the light and fan on because at the time my light was a fan and a light at the same time. So I'd open the door and put a flashlight inside and shower in the dark because the fan sounded like there was people singing in my attic. And I had a bat outside my bed because I kept on hearing people
making plans down in the basement, things like it was oddest thing ever. And I went to drinking 2 pots of coffee instead. So I would drink 2 pots of coffee a day and just like trying to get something that felt good for me.
Sure.
And I was just eating pounds and pounds of ice cream, getting like trying to get that sugar back into me. My body was craving. And so yeah, that was that. And then I basically after that, I went back to work, man. I just like, I couldn't sit in the house anymore. I was like, I have to go back. And I ended up going back. The boss at the time was like a huge fan of me because I could run everything. And I was like this guy that could change these tires and wasn't scared, nothing. Went back into it. And then I rose all the way to branch manager of that entire, store. He ended up having to leave, go south. I was like, I'll take over. I ran that whole store. We did about 5 million a year, ran it for a few years. I had at times I had 20 employees. I had like 2 service trucks, 1 high-ab, forklift, everything. Like it was, and I had a full stage, I had a full-on Red Seal, journeyman mechanic. It was.
So this idea of leadership, like the one thing I'm hearing about you from what you're telling me with this story is when you were at your best, leadership qualities come out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you were growing up, you had no opportunity to really exercise that. But when you were in the military program, when you were when you had people invest in you, when you had people see the potential in you, it sounds like your leadership traits came out. The more structure, the more guidance, the more people believed in you. When we talk about mentors, especially like in the business world, but even more so, but previous to being a therapist, I was a youth director, camp director. I used to do informal education. Right. One of the things that I'm really proud of is there's so many of those now adults that I'm still in touch with. And I don't necessarily see myself as a mentor, but I know going through what I went through as a kid, the people that I'm still in touch with that were those people, my camp counselors, youth directors, I'm still in touch with today, almost 30 years later. Right. When you see someone believe in someone, like where would you rate that as far as like the level of impact and influence on you of helping you get to where you were now? And you may not even look at it from that perspective before. I don't know.
Yeah. I in terms of like me helping out other people helping out me out.
Other people helping you out, right? So the people, when you got to that program and they gave you the structure, right? And in other words, you're coming into this program, like you may think like as a kid, right? I see it like with wilderness programs and all these other things, right? It's very like, all right, well, let's see if you're going to make it. But obviously those people are there because they do believe something about what's inside on someone's potential. But to be a teenager, to be someone who has never had someone really advocate for them, fight for them versus fight against them, it's so hard to change that mindset about like, there's an adult who cares about me. There's people who actually see things that I would never, even my own family doesn't see in me. That idea.
Yeah. I think the cool thing about the military school was like, it was a very big, like love hate. Like everyone there had huge hearts, but at 1 minute they're screaming at the top of their lungs, spit flying out of their mouth. And you're in the push-up position and you are like shaking because you've been there for 40 minutes and everyone around you is like, just some people are crying, some people are whining, some people are whatever. Like you're just like, and then the next minute they're like, okay, thank you very much. Like, here we go. Everyone's going to get extra, 30 minutes of kit time so you can prepare for tomorrow's inspection, things like that. At that time, 30 minutes of extra kit time to get prepared for the next day was like, it was like dessert for us because we didn't want to get ripped apart and shoot out the next morning. So, sure. But there was a lot of people at the school. Again, I was like, I still am to this day. One of those people that I don't think there's like a mixture of whether people like me or hate me. I think it's one or the other for me, right? Like there's people that really like me and there's like people that just like, no, I don't like this kid. And I just don't have a ton of the in-between. So like at the school, there was a lot of people that just truly liked me. They liked my leadership. They liked all this and they believed in me. I had gym teachers, like we would do challenges all the time. Like, and I would like smoke people. Like it was like the funnest thing ever where we would just like, medicine ball challenges and trying to do push-ups and stuff like that. And like, balancing on top of these while doing, push-ups and all that. It was just like so fun. And then, you've got these other people that just truly make your life harder. And I think it was such a good dynamic though, because like it just taught me to be extremely careful, but at the same time, like just be true the whole time. There's no lying. There's no stretching through. You're just always that person. This person that you want to be, you're always this person. And because like you would get caught if you weren't. And so that's why I think even still to this day, I think I like the fact that there's a lot of people out there that just like, not that can't stand me, but that just like, make my life harder than it has to be. But it's just good because it just keeps me on track, in my opinion. Like I'm always just true to like what I want to do. Like, and that's why I'm so blunt, why I'm so like, I swear a lot, and why I'm just like, I am who I am. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not fucking anyone else. Like, it's just me. Right. And like, like someone comes like, hey, do you want to do this? I'm like, I don't fucking like that shit. No, I don't want to do that. No, thank you. Right. Have a nice day. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, wow. Like that was, I'm like, I'm just honest. Right. And so I think
that's a practical thing for both. I'm going to give a workshop in a few weeks to a group of young professionals. And I was kind of debating, what to call the topic. And it's one of my favorite topics is, if you go back to earlier episodes, but like, the audience who's listening to the show knows that I talk about this often, is core values. And my coach talked about the doorman principle of who you let into your room, right? Who you let into your life could turn out to be the quality. So, it's very difficult for people to say no up front versus like not wanting to be, I don't want to be a bad person. I don't want to be a dick. I don't want to piss anybody off. And then you let them in and then they cause chaos and then you have to kick them out. Right. So this idea of like, my coach Rick calls it like how to make your life a magic carpet ride. Well, first you have to know who you're willing to let get on the carpet with you, right? Because you can't fly anywhere when it's weighed down by a bunch of toxic crap. But the idea of like, even for me as therapist, and I discuss this with people all the time in my industry, is knowing who you absolutely don't see and who you absolutely won't let into your practice versus like, well, I'm in a helping position. I'm in a helping profession. Do I have space in my practice? Do I need that extra income? Right. But that starts getting into a level of like, well, the person who's best suited to do that. And will I enjoy this process? So I very much respect what you're saying, where like, this is a hell no or a hell yes for me. And to not be apologetic, but like, to be like, listen, like the way I say it is, it's completely out of my wheelhouse. I'm sure I can do some good for you, but neither of us will completely benefit from it. And I want both of us to go to our head, go to our pillows with our head put down, saying like, this is absolutely the best investment for my time, effort, and energy. And I won't be able to do that for you. So I love what you're saying there.
I use that pillow analogy all the time too. Like at the end of the day, like I go, am I going to put my head on the pillow and stay awake, or am I going to fall asleep? And I love that because it's me. And I find that like, there's a difference between being rude and mean and all this kind of stuff, and then just being truthful. And like, I find that like people are sometimes like, wow, that's refreshing. Like, wow, thank you for that. Thank you. Like, and it's just like, if people are offended by the fact that I'm just being truthful about me not wanting to do something, not wanting to work with them, or they're or what they just showed me. Like I have tons of students still coming up to me and they're like, here's my idea to that. I'm like, it's dog shit. Like, we got to go back to the drawing board. Let's do this. And they're like, but a month later, they're like, oh my God, I'm so happy I didn't do that. I saw that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, and like,
it's so true. It's because I see it so often. Like I'm talking to a therapist friend of mine about their like niche, and I'm like, but why you? Like, why, like what makes you the expert at that compared to everybody else? Like, who out there is already advertising that and being an expert of that? And I'm like, why would they pick you? And I'm not trying to be rude about it, right? It's just like, well, I'm interested in it. Well, interested in it and being an expert in it, and why people are going to pay you to be an expert is different than like, well, I really like doing this. Okay, that's great, but that's a hobby, not a then you're a hobbyist in your profession about that. And I love how, that idea of, again, why are you particularly and specifically the best person to solve that problem is very different than, well, I enjoy seeing that particular type of issue or working with that challenge. That's great, but I don't know if anybody's going to pay me to be the guinea pig in that regard.
I also like having pizza on Friday nights as well. You know what I mean? Like sorry. I'm just
exactly. That's the way I'll playfully say to them. I'm like, okay, but that's great. But like, so like when you're deciding like, so this is perfect because, you were working this, you were doing really, really well in this leadership position, and you decided to go into becoming your own boss, to going into the entrepreneurial route. And I always like talking about this, and a lot of people never heard about this. And I didn't even hear about this. And some of my story is even as a therapist with a practice, I never saw myself as a business owner. I saw myself as a therapist with a private practice. And that's when I stumbled upon this business program that I was involved with, and where it was really amazing and core value based. And the idea of an entrepreneur versus an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is what you were doing. You were helping grow by bringing in leadership and SOPs, standard operating practices and procedures, mentorship and guidance, and helping the business grow. And you were benefiting because of that. And a lot of people don't realize, one, they don't ask. Let me say it differently. They don't ask if they can take more of that opportunity within the business or company that they're doing. Do you want more input, company? Do you want more input, boss, owner of the business? Can I help you do this versus just it being a trickle down economics? So one, we can talk about that from your perspective. And two, when you don't feel like you're able to have influence, when you know you can solve this at a greater level. And I'm discussing this with one of my clients who works for a very really cool industry, who's a specialist. And I'm like, what do you need to do to learn what you need to learn while you're still at this job and making six figures? So you can jump ship and on the side start consulting for other people in ancillary industries that won't be a conflict of interest for your contract. But you can also probably get paid equivalently on one job as a consultant versus doing this full time for making that same amount of money for an industry, right? I want to hear your input on those two things and where that led you.
Yeah, it's funny that you said the entrepreneur thing, because I am an entrepreneur who is a hired entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Like that's what I do. I'm like literally an entrepreneur for multiple companies. That's what. But you know what I mean? So like I don't like. As a remote integrator, I was never like the guy that like I don't like the customer service side of things. I don't like the content side of things. I don't mind the face-to-face talking kind of stuff like that. But like if I could, I would just like to be with my people building and making things happen. So I think when I was getting going and when I was first starting off, and I guess before we'll go to before that, I suppose, is like I was making $120,000 a year at a place called Cal Tire. And they call it corporate because I was in management and I was up at the top, but I was still slinging tires faster than any other, fucker out there. And that was my business too, is like, if you want to stand up the counter like me, because everyone's like, there's this counter and shop dynamic. You fucking lazy counter people. It's like, oh yeah, you want to fucking come up here
some tires?
Yeah. And I would put them up on the counter for a day, and I wouldn't even help them. You know what I mean? Like, no, you want to, and they like get to the end, and they're like holding their head at the end of the day, and they're like, no, I'm going to go to tires. But in my company, like if you couldn't do every tire, you're not getting on the counter. I don't give a shit who you are or where you came from or what other tire shop or who your dad is. I don't give a flying rats. You know what? And so that's basically how I ran it. But I was management, $120,000 a year, bonus, profit sharing. Like I had a company vehicle. Like, I mean,
you were good. Right. You were good.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything was great. And then it was just my mental health at that time was like, okay, so I'm not putting myself into a stupor of like just feeling good all the time, drunk. I have all this ADHD energy, diagnosed as a child, diagnosed as an adult, like I'm like 100%, like there's no doubt, but I have all this extra stuff and I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. And like, this is when I started going like, well, I don't like the customer service thing. I kept on getting yelled at, or, one of my favorite things is, and this is going to be probably funny, but maybe not, but in Canada, we have this season called winter. I don't know if you know about it, but
here in Florida, we have the opposite. We have summer.
Yeah. So we have this thing called winter where there's snow, and it pretty much comes at the same time every fucking year. Okay. Right. It doesn't really, some days it comes on this day. Some
it's not a surprise. Right.
Generally it's around this time, and every year we have these people, they're like, oh my God, it's winter. I got to put my winter tires on. And you're like, no way. Really? Now? And they're like, yeah. Can I get them on today? I'm like, well, you should have fucking booked 3 weeks ago. Like, I'm booked all fucking month. Like, there's no way. They're like, well, my wife's pregnant. I got to get to Prince George. I'm like, how long she been pregnant for, man?
Right.
You just figured that out, or like, what's going on? Like,
one of my greatest quotes. I don't know who I heard this from, but it's so perfect to what you're saying. Your lack of planning doesn't constitute a crisis for me.
And I don't know
who said that, but I think it's so apropos.
Yep. And so it was all of that. Like, it was always consistent. Like, you just get tired of that. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, how many times do I have to explain myself? And then we have these huge logging companies like that are doing, hundreds of thousands of dollars with us every year, like if not more. And they're coming out, you lost our tires, and you lost this, and this tire's garbage. I'm like, go through the warranty process. Like, did you guys check your C-can? Here's the way bill when we delivered it. Like, what are you fucking done? Get out of my face. Stop yelling at me. You know what I mean? Like, and eventually I was just like cut and dry. Like, this is where I got my bluntness, and like where I built into this, like, now get out of my face kind of mentality. Cause I was just like, I'm done with that. And so I just like, I watched this like guy, and his name was Brandon. And I still contribute everything to this guy, even though like he's not even doing it anymore. Like I surpassed him. He's working a 9 to 5 now, and he's no longer doing it. But I watched this guy, and he was like this waterfall, and he's talking about this opportunity and, this guru affiliate marketing dream lifestyle kind of stuff. Right. I'm going to do this. You know what I mean? And so I couldn't get it out of my head. And 2 weeks later, after joining up with this guy, affiliate marketing, I fucking went in and quit.
Wow.
No notice.
Wow.
Nothing. Just mental health down. Couldn't handle it.
Right.
I was like, I'm just like the whole drinking thing. I was like, I physically can't take anymore. My wife was like, I came home, and the day before I quit, I came home, and she's like, I'm scared when you come home. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I've never hit her. I've never done anything. Right. She's like, I just don't know how to talk to you, or what mood you're going to be in, or what's going on. I'm scared. And I'm like, my kid was just born, Elliot, my first one. And, I'm like, that hit me. Like, I broke down. Like, it was like crying. And like, it was like, I couldn't, like, it was the perfect thing she could have said to me. Cause it was just like, it hit me. And I was like, man, like, all right. I went in the next day, quit. I was like, I'm done, guy. See how after like 2 weeks? No, here's my phone. Bye. I damn near walked home with the because I just kept the company vehicle. I was like, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And so that's where entrepreneurship started. And I failed my way for years. Didn't make anything. I had to go back to work. So I ended up doing affiliate marketing and branding, all this kind of stuff. I went down to Vegas. I did all these events, and I was like, I just realized, I was like, I'm not this guru. I'm not this content guy. I don't want to stand in front of a camera like, oh, hey, you can do this. You know what I mean? Like, I just like, it was so disingenuous. I just hated that life of just like, I'm not living this. Why am I saying this? Yeah. And like, that's the problem with, I think, the multi-level marketing and affiliate marketing, a lot of that kind of stuff in terms of like living this lifestyle that you're not. Because it's just so.
Well, people are seeing through that. I mean, those who see through that can see through that, and I still see it. And I know, I know people who are involved in so many different things. But then when you go to a lot of these entrepreneur business conferences, you'll see a lot of that. And I think the word that you kept, this genuineness, you can see, right? People who really are bringing a genuine, like if someone's like, hey, like I actually used this before I even sold it, right? I was using it and it did change my life. And this is why I got on it, versus like, there was an opportunity for me to make money, or two very different perspectives and now reverse engineering their entire story around why they need to come up with a good story in order to sell that product. Two very different things. And I think that's where I think people see, why I wanted to talk so much about your story is the genuineness of why someone partners with someone. People don't necessarily just want the product. They want the relationship. And when they see like someone like you or someone like me who like, like I told you, like I don't hold back on people. There's no secret about like the fact that I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I got divorced in 2010 to any of my clients, and no one's left me once they find that out. It's, I think people realize the humanity of like, they want the connection, they want the realness, they want the authenticity. They don't just want to be sold. And I think that old sales marketing, used car salesman thing is dying at some level. There are people still buy into that shtick, and you see that in certain circles. And I'm sure we can name a few people on social media who are very, very, very good at that. But you see who aligns with that, and you don't want them to be your customers or your clients, and who doesn't.
Yeah. And that's why, like with what I teach too, because I have two different businesses, or three. So I have a business where I'm an integrator for companies, right? It's called Social Aim Solutions. I have a company, which is just a CRM that has a lot of stuff that I sell my clients into. So I kind of double dip a little bit. It's ethical, but
understandable.
That's what I do.
Right. That's what it should be.
And then my third company is my academy, and I teach people how to do remote integrating because I don't want to be a $10 million a year business. I don't even want to be $1 million a year business. I really don't. Like, I've done the $900,000 years. You know what I mean? I've almost broke that 7-figure mark before. And I'm like, I don't like it. And you know me, like, from this story, you already know me. Like, if I'm not into it, I'm fucking cold turkey out to do something else kind of thing. So, I think like it was this affiliate marketing. I don't regret it at all, because the reason why the affiliate marketing and all that kind of stuff was I could set everything up and get everything running and get everything absolutely smooth sailing up until the point where it's like, I got to get on camera. I got to try and talk to people about something that doesn't make sense to me. So I was like, oh man, like I wish I could just set things up for people rather than actually doing this stuff. Right. And so I had to go back to work. My second kid was just about to be born, Atticus. And I had taken an entire year off, and here in Canada, they call it employment insurance. So I was able to take it, and never taken it before. So it was nice, paid into it all for so many years. And then finally I was like, I'm taking it. Okay. So I had to go back to work. And so this big, huge entrepreneur in town where I used to live was like, hey, starting up another tire shop. Let's go into competition against Cal Tire. I was like, okay, sure. I'm not going back to them.
Right.
So I'll start it up. So I started a brand new tire shop from scratch. Nothing. There was no hoist. There was nothing, right? There was so I had to get the hoist. I had to get the tire equipment. I had to get all the tools. I had to get the employees. I had to write the books. I had to get the software. I had to fucking build everything from the ground up for this place.
Love it.
From scratch. I did it in 2 months. And I grew that business in its first year to almost $250,000, in the first 4 months. So and that included the setup. I took that business, the logging business, all that. I went out to my old contacts. I had a bit of a Rolodex still, that, hey, blah, blah, blah. How's it going? How's the service? Nah, nah, nah. And I didn't do it in spite of where I was working. But at the same time, I just was there's just this lack of there's only one tire shop in town. People have to go 2 hours to get to another tire shop if they're busy. So it was just extras that was coming to us. And there was so much more. And that business is still running to this day right now. But it was then I was that. It was the epiphany. I was doing this marketing agency, and I was making this marketing agency. I did $80K a month on this marketing agency while I was working for this tire shop, because I couldn't afford in a marketing agency with the profit margins and the ads and all that to keep my wife home with kids and for me not to work. So I kept my wife home with the kids and all that kind of stuff while I was still working, while I was still building. There's a picture of me online. You can find it somewhere. If you type in the Integrator Academy, and it's me in a jacket in a non-insulated tire shed, with a laptop on a set of tires, and I'm working, and someone snapped a picture of me, and everyone's like, oh, you set it up. And I was like, right. That picture is genuine. No, this is legit. Really yeah. I was literally on a phone call, a Zoom call with people. But anyways, it was in that moment that I was like, I got to pivot entirely, cold turkey. Let's fucking stop. I got to get out. And I was like, I'm good at setting shit up. So I went back to my Rolodex of the affiliate marketing, the multi-level marketing, and the marketing agencies. And I was like, let me set shit up. Let me just set your shit up. Why don't you pay me? You pay me and I'll set your shit up. They're like, yeah, absolutely. How much? And I was like, I don't know. $1,500 a month. They're like, okay, done. I was like, yeah, $1,500 a month US for me at that time in my life was wow, that's an extra $2,100 Canadian every month coming in now. Oh my God, this is crazy. And so I ended up growing that to $30K a month in a month. And I was helping people out with virtual assistants, and I was doing all this kind of stuff. And I got to about $30K a month, and I had stopped and this is $30K a month profit, not $80K a month, $60 to $80K a month marketing agency with ad spend and all that. I made 30 grand. I pretty much take home 30 grand. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
There's a few wages and softwares and all that. And so I quit again.
Amazing.
Quit again. Didn't leave them high and dry though. I gave them a month notice. They let me go after 2 weeks because I had trained up a guy to take my spot. And like I said, it's still running. You go to Mackenzie, there's a tire craft there, and a Cal Tire, and they're still both functioning. Yeah. The world moves on without me. which is great. I'm happy for that because
well, that's the whole point of integration, right? And this goes back to what we were talking about, this idea of simplicity, probability, and leverage, right? The simplicity is these are the core values of my coach Rick. Where is this going to make my life easier? Is this going to make my business easier? Probability is what are the things that I'm putting in play that's going to make this outcome highly probable. And leverage is I'm not an expert at this. Who do I need to bring in? Who do I need to leverage this out to? Who do I need to farm this out to? And I think I want people to like really understand, because when I was first reading all this stuff about you before, when we scheduled it, I was okay, what the heck is an integrator? And really, from my perspective now, it's you're the leverage. You help people create leverage. And you help people farm out, right? And in other words, this is kind of like what case management would be in the therapy world, where you have the person, if they're leaving an inpatient facility, they sit down at the end. Okay, I'm going to help you organize your outpatient therapy. We're going to help you arrange your medical appointments. We're going to help you get to your psychiatrist. We're going to help you get with your nutritionist, right? In a way, you're not just facilitating the things for the business, but you're also like, okay, well, maybe we can do this for you. And we have someone in-house who can help you. Right. All those different things. So in a way, it does make the way the system works here is that, like you said, you have your marketing agency and you have to pay them a fortune. Of that is maybe some percentage of that is ad spend, and maybe they get some revenue off that and whatever it is. And there's different ways of doing that. You're reverse engineering the way of looking at this of no. We're going to still be out of house, but we're going to be invested in your company, but we're going to make it actually financially make it make sense for you to do that. And that's why I think people get stuck in marketing, especially, is that no one can promise if you spend $1,000 a month with us, you're going to get 2,000 back. So therefore it's going to be worth it for you to continue spending $1,000 a month with us.
You know what I can guarantee though? Yeah. You know what I love about that? What you just said is that you're 100% right. You cannot put $100 in and get fucking 200 out. Like you can't just predict that. If you've run the ads before, sure, you can kind of like go, hey, Zuck, help me out with some Facebook ads, bro. You know what I mean? Like, sure. But what I really like about that is that where I help out is like, I go, well, I know that this company can, number one, function, make money, employ people, and it has been for how long already without the ads, without this, without that, right? We already are going to establish that, right? So what is the number one thing that's going to increase their output and their revenue and all that? It's them getting more time back. And so my first grocery list with everyone, and I call them grocery lists, we have this vent session where I say, just fucking dump it on me. What makes you not want to get up in the morning, right? This is when I first onboard a client. That's what we do. We just like vent, complain, bitch at me. Let's go. And I don't.
And those are all problems challenges to be solved, which is.
But then, and then we basically just automate. So we do this thing. It's called. There's a book. I forget what book it is. It's we eliminate, we automate, and then we delegate. Right. So we eliminate what the fuck's not necessary. What are you doing? That just why? Why are you doing? You know what I mean? Like why?
Right. And I would take it to the therapist that I'm working with, like as coaching them in their business, would be like, what are the type of clients, personality wise or case reason why they're showing up that you absolutely look at your schedule every week and you're like, oh God, all right, I have to see them at 3:00 today. Right. Yeah. Anything about that should be gone. Terminate them as soon as possible, refer them out. Don't take that type of situation. What questions aren't you asking to make sure that you need to ask to make sure that type of person doesn't show back up on your caseload?
Yeah. So we eliminate whatever we cannot eliminate. We try and automate, right? We just try and buy their time, and whatever we can't automate, we delegate. And so and then I have people that fire me within the first month, 2 months, because they're like, I need to get back into work. I'm not working anymore. Like, right. So you fucking hired me to do, man. Like what? Yeah. Like go make money.
Mindset. Go get. Well, let's pause there for a second, because I think that's so important. And this is what I'm seeing as my journey has evolved, where the thing that we were taught to be an expert at the most is the thing that we have to leverage out to bring people under us. That when we talk about whether it's financial freedom or time freedom, whatever the things that are these loftier ideas, right? Our entire society has been built on train to work, you do that, maybe you move a few different positions and a few different angles that you didn't even think that you would get into, but you're still at the beginning of the day, what you trained to do will be at some level what you're doing until you retire. And it's incremental steps throughout life. What I've learned over the last couple of years, and what I think that you're really positioning yourself on, especially by what you just said, is your job is to get yourself fired so that you can have it be replaced by someone who believes in what you believe in, who has that same values. They're never going to be you. They don't have to have the Colonel's secret recipe, and they're never going to be as good as you think you are at what you're doing. But people still want efficiency, and they still want someone who is going to be passionate, but they also want someone who knows how to solve the problem. And bare minimum competencies are also important. And I think this mindset that we have in our cultures is it has to be us. And that's where I come in when I'm working with a lot of people, is how do you build that mindset where you're going to help more people if you have a team under you with the same mission and the same values of what you're trying to do for yourself than that one person per hour, or that one business per hour, or that one team per hour. And you'll help more, you'll impact more. And that's a ego-based switch that needs to be not necessarily a bad ego, but that's just societal, right? Switching.
Yeah. And it's probably one of the hardest things that you have to teach. And it's one of the things that I would find, I'm a very logical person. And it's probably the number one thing that just always never makes sense. Yeah. They're like, I don't know why, but this is the way that I want it. And you're like, well, this is what's going to happen if you don't. I know, but I don't care. I want this way. You're like, but the last month, but I don't care. And you're like,
yeah. And I think that's right. So when and I see this as such a stopgap with every profession, right? Because again, it's like the identity of who you are is so wrapped up with. I see it a lot in the educational field. It's a lot of the helping professions, right? But I think also industry, even if you're working as an entrepreneur for another industry, those industries aren't necessarily there for you to decide how you can make your job easier and delegate out even more. That will actually save the company a lot of money, time, effort, energy in the end as well. And that managing up paradigm is frustrating because you can't have that upward influence. And I think this is where a lot of companies, as also if you are listening to this and you own a company and you're not asking those under you in different positions, what do you see that can make our company run more efficiently, both practically and as far as financials? I think we're missing out a tremendous, tremendous opportunity on that. But it also applies to families, right? If you're not allowing your family to run this way, hey, why are we always doing it this way? Why are we always going on vacation here? Why are we using this car insurance company? What are we? Oh, it's a pain in the butt to switch. Well, there's a lot of time.
There's that old story, and it was like this girl that asked her mom why they cut the roast in half and put it in the pan. And she's like, I don't know, go ask your grandma. And the daughter goes and asks the grandma, Grandma, why do we cut the roast and have to put it in the pan? She's like, I don't know, go ask your great grandma. And go ask great grandma. And great grandma's like, well, back in my day, the pan was too small.
Yeah.
It's like, but now we got a big pan, so why aren't we putting the whole damn roast in there, And
that's how it's always been done.
Like what you said, it's just the way it is. It is what it is. I hate that, It is what it is. But it's so true because as soon as you get that, and you go back that far, however it happens, and you get that, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And a lot of times when I say, hey, I get fired, generally it's just they're like, this isn't working. I have to da 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 da. And then a month later, they're like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
And my favorite saying of all time, and this comes with a big story. I don't think we have time, but I was mining. I'll dumb it down or shorten it. I used to have a gold claim. And I was mining one time, and I was trying to find gold, and I was mildly successful. And my dogs were on the other side of the creek where I was panning. My quad was almost near the forest line, and I was on the river, the creek river, and my shotgun was there. And I heard something behind me turn around. There's this random dude standing there, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. You couldn't even.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I'm dead. Right. I'm dead. And he was this short, long. It was just, anyways. He just points up 600 feet up the hill, and then he goes, "Gold isn't where you think it is. It's where you find it." And I turn around and look up there. I heard some more movement, and he's into the bush, gone.
What?
And it was the oddest situation ever. But anyways, that saying, what you were just talking about, gold isn't where you think it is where you find it. I still use it in everything I do now, because it's just like, just because you think gold is supposed to be on the inside shoulder, a foot down, and it doesn't mean it's going to be there. I went up to 600 feet up this fucking hill, and it was the night sky of shining, literally flower gold sitting in my pan. I was the happiest man of all time. But like this old timer, I found out later he was Trapper Jack. He ended up killing himself. Anyway, it was crazy in this cabin. It was a big story in the news. I met him randomly in the middle of my claim. Anyways,
and it was easier for him to tell someone else how to, right? In other words, that information he gave you, this is again, that mindset thing, that the wisdom, right? He knew the answer that could have maybe, if he got this, right, did this himself, got help, got medical care, got whatever he went, but it was just like, go up there, you can do it. Right. And I think a lot of people are this idea of like, if I help someone else, maybe it'll come back in return, versus if you help yourself, you'll help yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And we miss that. And I think that's like a really good pause for our conversation, because this idea of integration is like, you've proven that you've been able to do it for yourself by bringing more simplicity to your life, especially with the journey you've taken. I think, and this is something that I really want, like everybody who is listening to this is struggling with something, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whether it's emotional, spiritual, whatever. And if we're not taking that action step to just do that one thing differently for ourselves, no matter amount of work that we're going to do for someone else or for something else, no one else is going to say, oh, I noticed you're doing this for me. What can I do for you? Like that's very, very rare. And I think this idea of like integration, we were talking before we started that, I've been doing microdose psilocybin, and it's the thing that would talk about integration. That's the word I've been using, is that it's allow me to put things with simplicity into two categories. One is stop paying attention to this; it will solve itself. No more focusing on that; it's done. It'll handle itself. And the other thing is, okay, here are the things you absolutely need more clarity on and why you need to leverage this out, and you need to take action on this instead of wasting your time focusing on these other things. Here's what you need to do. And I think the last number of weeks, I've taken very clear action steps on some things for my own health that I never would have even thought to do, and decisively done as fast, because I like doing the research on it and then doing more research on it and then doing more research on it. And then I'm like, right. Right. And then it never becomes that paralyzed will of like, is this truly the right thing? Is there a better thing? Is there a better person to talk to? As opposed to let me decide and make the decision, and then go into the, like what my entrepreneur friends is, hire fast, fire fast. Right. So, okay, but I got to take that risk. And so far,
hire fast, fire faster.
Yeah, right. Like fire faster. Yeah, okay, even like that. I like that. Yeah. So it's a whole nother level, right? So, but so far it's turned out to work really well with me. That I'm like, okay, so I've jumped on this. I'm doing, some different things that I'm noticing, and I think we need to be finding those people, the leverageable dream team. And I always talk about that. One, I talk about like in my marketing. If you go on my Psychology Today profile, it says my job is to have you fire me as soon as possible, which means that you're going to be happy with the outcome. And majority of my referrals come from people who've worked with me before, meaning like they refer people who've worked with me, or they'll come back 5 years later for a new thing, which is fantastic. And two, the idea of who is the dream team. And I think that's kind of what you're really helping people accomplish is it's not going to be you, and you have to change your mindset. Who are the people that are going to be, that will help you get there, that are experts in that area, that you can spend more time doing what you love, what you're trained to do, what you're passionate about doing, and maybe even find more freedom in it, which you're going to have to deal with mentally and getting your mindset behind that of what would more freedom look like for you and your time, effort, and energy. And I really want,
I have tons of family that get mad at me because they come to, like, I have family here now. And it wasn't this time, but they'll come to my house, they'll come for vacation or whatever. And then they're like, do you ever work? Do you ever do this? And then, like, blah, blah, blah. How are you? Well, again, like, they just don't understand.
Right. How is that legit or ethical or moral?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the key factor.
If I really need to, if not, like, other than that, like, I don't have some big stuff going on. Like, I can take you out on the boat and I can finish everything up on this if I need to, my phone.
Right.
You know, I don't have. They're like, oh, you're on your phone on the boat. I'm like, well, would you rather me do it here? Or do you want to go back to the house where I can sit on a computer and you can sit on my couch waiting for me again? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want? But people just don't. People don't get it,
and it's I know, and it's such a wall. And I feel like when you see the light bulb go on, and I love it when I'm doing any type of intervention with my client, where it's like it's always been right in front of them. That belief, that assumption, that expectation that they carry is so frustrating for them because they're still playing into those rules. But that's that old Einstein, like the definition of insanity. It's like doing that same thing over and over again. You can't solve the problem from the place in which it was created, which is really Einstein. But once they see it differently, it's not that the action step has to be different, but the belief system has to be different. Because if their belief isn't different, the action items, the action steps still come from the same root. And I really want to congratulate you on like helping people get there. One, for yourself alone. I mean, I think it's just magical what you've shared with me and shared with us. Just what you've come from, what you've accomplished, what you're going to continue to accomplish, I think is just fascinating. And I stand in awe of anybody alone who's come from a story and a family of intergenerational theme of trauma and addiction to create a life of health is one of the most difficult undertakings to do. So I really do stand in awe. And two, to help other people create a life more of simplicity is incredible. So where can they find you? Where can they track you down? If someone, is hearing this and like, okay, like we just touched the surface on integration and all the different ways it can be, but where can they find more about what that means, what that looks like? If someone's even interested in doing one of your academy programs, where would they go?
Yeah. So, there's 3 places. So if you need help with integrations and solving some systems in your business, socialaimsolutions.com is my company that I've had since a long time now. And second company is the Integrator Academy.com. And that is where you can watch a video and book a call with me to talk about whether you want to start your own solution-oriented integrator business. And then third is if you're just not sure what the hell you want to do, just find me on Facebook. And it's there's a couple fake profiles out there, so I can send you the proper link. But it's just Michael Dallas-Petersen SEN, and you'll notice my profile compared to other people's is a lot different. It's a lot more legit looking. So yeah, there are a couple fakies out there. But that's where you can find me. And generally, if just Facebook Messenger, just do a message request or try and follow me and send me something so at least it pings up on my side, and then yeah.
Beautiful. And if anybody's listening and they get stuck somewhere, just reach out to me if you can't track them down for the right way, and I'll get you directly in touch with Michael. So guys, as always, if there's any value that you got from this show, I know there was a bunch of different topics, but if you want to reach out about mental health stuff, about addiction resources, about entrepreneur stuff, right? Obviously, there's tons of stuff that I can point you in the direction from, Michael. I'm sure there's some things about, that people might be going through and they're like, hey, I can really relate to your story.
I'll talk to anyone going through what I went through. So
there you go.
If they need it, I'm here. I found a solution that really worked for me. And so, if anyone needs it, I'm here for you.
Beautiful. So like always, right, if you haven't yet subscribed to the show, it's on all major podcast platforms, You Winning Life. We also have YouTube videos of every single episode. It goes up around the time of the audio. And again, like I said in the introduction, if, just let us know who you are. Let us know who's listening to this. Let us know what you'd like to hear more about, what type of guests you'd like us to get on, and experts in their areas like Michael is in his, because I'm sure this is the first time many of you have heard about this particular industry of integration and integrators. And like always, thank you so much for one, Michael, for hanging out with us, and two, listeners, really thank you for all the time you're giving us. And we know, because I see the download numbers going up week by week by week, and we're getting closer to episode 200. So thanks again. Everybody.
Thank you so much for having me. It was definitely a treat. So I enjoyed it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the You Winning Life podcast. If you are ready to minimize your personal and professional struggles and maximize your potential, we would love it if you subscribed so you don't miss an episode. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Jason Wasser, LMFT.